Hey everyone, how are we today? I hope you guys can see the screen and hear me as well. If you could just press the hand button, that'll just let me know that all's good. Okay, great. Thanks, Ashley. Okay, so today we're going to discuss about marketing, and marketing has come a long way in the sense that it used to be just agent, and now it's agent. It's different investor groups who cater to just investors. It is also marketing is also expanded to different sales channels, whether it's accountants, financial planners, people who have other people that go to them to solve their taxation problem. And the reason we've got a massive growth in property here is because, I mean, of course, there's because of population as well, but also negative gearing. And I think negative gearing is not that it's just available in Australia. It is available overseas as well in different countries, and you can offset that. So people who make a lot of money, like the doctors that I work with, they all want to save tax and negatively gear, because if they don't, they just pay tax on it anyway. So to save them tax and to save them more money, they basically go and buy property every year, so that they can negatively gear and offset some of the tax from it. So we're going to discuss marketing, and let's begin. So there's an 80-20 rule, you know, the Pareto principle, that 80% of your income comes from 20% of your clients, and it's actually it applies to a whole lot of different things across the board. So the 80% of the thing, 80-20 rule in marketing is that 20% of your buyers will produce 80% of the sales, and which is basically 2 out of 10 prospects will become genuine buyers. So if 10 people approach you or 10 people send an inquiry, only 2 of them are actually going to be buyers from it. And 80% of the potential buyers will come from within 20 kilometers of the project. This is where you should be targeting. It also depends upon the product as well. So if you are targeting something that is homeowners, you will find that this rule will apply, where 80% of potential buyers will come from within 20 kilometers of the project, because either they are downsizing, or they are in the area, they're buying for their kids, or they want to move to a better house, or they want to sell their old house, move to a new house, and all different things. So that's where your marketing should be targeted if you are targeting that area. But if you've got a product that is investor as well as an owner-occupier product, you can advertise it with different property clubs. There's actually a club called Property Club. I use them to sell my stock in Brisbane apartments, which was a pure investor product, and we got 2 or 3 pre-sales. The only downside with using specialized people like this is that the commission rate is very high, and it's anywhere between 6 to 7%. That means that whatever you're making, 20, 30, 40, up to $50,000 off the top of the total sale value is actually going to them. So yeah, so, and advertising, if you're doing it within that local area, you can do it in the local newspaper, or you can use a billboard. Yeah, and these days you've got all sorts of different channels like social media. There are specialized websites that just talk about different developments and so on. So that's the 80-20 rule. And then we've got the future of property supply. Now I posted an article in the Facebook group about that only 2% of the money actually came from Chinese investors, and most of it actually came from most of the demand was actually because of increase in population, and population in Australia has gone up, and it will keep going in the next 2 decades as well. Australia's population will reach 42 million by 2050. That's one of the prediction is, but it's actually 6 million more than the federal government's target. If migration, fertility, and life expectancy continue at today's pace. So I got this from news.com.au. And capital cities are more attractive to a lot of people, and that's one of the reasons I would never go beyond a capital city to do any kind of development. That's one of the reasons. I won't even do it in Perth, because from day one I know that the economy of Perth was totally dependent upon mining, And when we had mining boom, you could see 18-year-old and 19-year-old young kids driving flash cars, having speedboats, all of that. Why? Because all they did was drive a truck in the mining town. So they used to have 3 weeks on, 1 week off kind of thing. They used to fly in and out of Perth. And Perth is a very expensive city to live in. It's actually, even the Nando's, I mean, if you go to Nando's, the average bill is actually about $10-15 for a family of four, above of what it is in Melbourne. And I noticed that because I went to Perth to look for a development and to look at it, and that's the only time I've actually been to Perth. But a lot of people there, at the moment, the market's just crashed because mining boom sort of is not in boom anymore. So a lot of people are out of jobs, so which basically has an impact on the economy of Perth. So, but at the same time, given an opportunity, I would only stick to the main metropolitan cities. And the reason for that is that if you've chosen your area properly, just like we've discussed in the previous classes, I've never come across a property that was well developed, or townhouse, or an apartment that was well developed, had a good location, that never sold. For whatever reason, have you come across anything in your area that was very well developed and it was in a good suburb with good amenities close by, and it never sold? So it's very hard to actually find anything in proper areas where they are well connected with infrastructure and well connected with all sorts of amenities for it to stay on the market for a very long time. So eventually everything basically moves, and that's part of mitigating your risk, unless of course you develop a really bad design. Even then, even a bad design, you can discount it and get rid of it, but it just depends upon how much you're going to discount it. So yeah, shortage of housing in Australia, this has been a debate for so long, and it appears that at worst Australia's reported housing shortage will not worsen, and at best it will improve, with Fitch forecasting a surge in construction to continue, keeping up with the strong population growth, mainly due to immigration. Now, our policies and our politicians talk about that they've closed the door on foreign investment and all of that. They haven't really. It's actually, they show something else to the world, to the general population, but anytime they close the door, they've got to actually keep side doors open, because if you look at Australia, I think Australia is like the Toorak of the world. Now, Toorak is one of the most expensive suburbs in Melbourne, and one of the most livable suburbs in Melbourne as well. And I like to think of Australia as the Toorak of the world, which is like the best city of the world, where all the people want to come and live. And Australia, to actually, in economics, if everybody sits on their wallet and nobody goes out to spend money, the economy stops growing. And if Australia hasn't got any manufacturing, as we know that all the car manufacturers have actually closed their doors on manufacturing, there's not a lot that's driving the economy that much. But property is a very big, is massive, because first, Australia doesn't have that much population as compared to the rest of the world, so it has a lot of potential to grow. And a lot of people, especially from Asian countries where the property prices are through the roof, people find that properties in Australia are cheaper as compared to China, for example, and they don't mind spending that money to actually come and buy a house here, even if it is like a holiday home or whatever. So the first factor is that yes, the Australian population will keep growing in the coming years, and I think Kevin Rudd said something like that, where whether Australia likes it or doesn't like it, it's got to keep that immigration door open, because otherwise the economy would come to a standstill. So I think the economists now have like a lever in their hand, where if anytime they feel that the Australian economy is lagging, or they can open up immigration to let more people in. And I think Ashley would be able to talk more about it than I can, but this is just my general observation. So Yeah, actually, if you would like to add something to it, I'll just press your hand button and I'll give you the mic so you can add to it. So I've basically got all of these all of these details from these websites. So housing affordability again, look, it's so relative. Housing affordability, where people say, "Look, I can't afford a house." Well, you can't afford a house, and everybody wants to live in the best suburbs. And if I look back and look at the suburbs that I grew in, even overseas, people who are living in that suburb can't afford to buy their own house in that suburb anymore. And it's very similar to a lot of people who are in good locations at the moment, because and those are the people who bought these properties years and years ago, and they've been in that property for so long. But I feel that even if those people were asked to say, look, can you buy your own house at today's market value, they won't be able to. And the new generation that's coming in, they want the best of everything. So they say, oh, I can't afford anything, which is just beyond me, because no, you can't afford anything in a particular suburb. But if you do want to afford something, you got to go further back. And those people who own properties and have been owning these properties for 20 years or 10 years, 15 years or whatever, have been in that suburb for that long. So if they were to buy something for 600K, maybe 40 kilometers from the city, from Melbourne CBD, for example, they can buy properties for 600, 650 and so on. However, they then have to wait for another 15, 20 years for those property values to actually go up, and then the new generation would say, "Oh, I can't afford any more housing." So it's very relative, and it actually stays like that for it is like that for every generation that comes forward. And I also don't understand the rules that, like in Victoria, they abolished the off-the-plan stamp duty to curb the housing market and make sure that there was no bubble and all of that. But I don't understand, they still have the off-the-plan stamp duty savings for properties under 650 and under 650K. But where in 30 kilometers radius of the CBD can you actually buy a 3-bedroom home, whether it's a townhouse or an apartment, for 650? Not in Melbourne, not within the 30-kilometer CBD. But yeah, maybe at 40 kilometers radius, yes, you can, and that's where they need to go. So at one side, the government says we want to control the urban sprawl so that people don't go to in new suburbs, and we want to increase the density. But then they cut off and say, look, you can't buy off the plan. There will be no off the plan stamp duty for properties over 650. But where else can you buy that? So it's a kind of beyond me what they try and do and what they try and accomplish with this. But anyway, there's got to be a lot of smart people sitting and making decisions. So I'll just go with what they've got. A major rating agency forecasts Australian home prices growth to slow, as they have been. And if you actually look at the Australian housing bubble, go to Wikipedia and Google Australian housing bubble. That debate's been going on since 2001, and this is just beyond me. And the only reason they don't see that bubble bust or anything, it is because the population has increased for that time, and there is hard to find. I'll give you an example. I want to build my house. It's been over a month and a half since I've been trying to find a property that I can get to rent, and I've got no issues showing serviceability. I got no issues showing cash in bank, getting a letter from the accountant telling them what it is, nothing. But I've not been able to find a house for over a month. I actually just found a house this Monday. On Monday I got a house because nobody else wanted it because it doesn't have an ensuite. But I only have to live there for 8-9 months until my house is built. So I'm making a compromise. But I looked at Mount Waverley, Glen Waverley, Wheelers Hill, everything close to where my kids' schools were, so that they didn't have to travel that long, or I didn't have to change the school. And I couldn't find anything that I could get. And all the houses that I actually applied for, my application wasn't successful. That means any open that I went to, there were like 10, 15, 16 people trying to get into the same, trying to rent the same place. So So what do? You can't really do much because there wasn't those those houses aren't available, and the ones that are available is it's they go on rent so fast because if the area's got a good school, good infrastructure close to shopping centers, it's difficult to actually even rent in that area. And this is the first time I actually found that because I couldn't. I even pulled a few strings. I spoke to an agent who was handling my property for 7 years and managing it for rental. Even then, I couldn't get because the whole thing has to go through an application process, and there were other people who the landlord chose before they chose me. But fingers crossed, I have managed to find something, and I'm actually moving out on the 29th of this month from where I live. So. Yeah, with almost 25 years of continuous GDP growth, record low rates, stable unemployment, if you don't know what Fitch is I don't know, I closed their Wikipedia page. Fitch is an agency that does all these research and comes up with all these different kind of things. Australian property remains among the most expensive in all metrics. Yeah, but not really. If I go back and look at Delhi, where I'm from, and although I haven't been back for many years and I haven't lived there for 20 years now, but when I talk to my family back home, the prices there are no different. In fact, for the same price, what you get over there, you get something better here in Australia. So all this debate and all that is just I don't know what their benchmark is that they are comparing it to. But most main metropolitan cities in the world have become that much dearer over time. So there's also a demographic shift where people marry late. Younger people prefer living close to the city, more demand for apartments near CBD, and that's why every now and then you get a glut of apartments anytime close to CBD because apartments close to CBD are sold quicker, so it attracts a lot of developers. And when a lot of developers get attracted at the same time, that results in a glut, and that glut is then takes a while to get absorbed in the market. So your product has to be designed in terms of marketing. Your product has to be designed. This is nothing new. I've been talking about it all throughout as we have been going through the course. So it has to be targeted towards a buyer's profile. So whether they are young, old, downsizers, what sort of age bracket, family, young family, kids, no kids, all those things. So, and you can find out about these details from economy.id, the site that I shared with you when we were talking about demographics, or ABS. And you also have to look at their interests, their likes, their dislikes, lifestyle choices. I went to a suburb in Frankston, which is close to the bay, and almost every house over there had a boat parked in their driveway. And we were just thinking and talking, and I said to them that if we ever did a development here, we would want to make larger garages because almost every second house had a boat parked outside on a trailer. So these are the things that you got to careful of. If you created something that people want or are looking for, you will have no problem selling your development. So, and you also have to look at low price, medium price, and high end. Now, I never deal in low price ever. I never go to 40 kilometers from the city to do a development. I would never do that either, unless where I'm operating right now becomes really high end. So I do not plan on doing that. I don't know. It's my comfort level because low price stuff is not the kind of stuff that we as developers and builders, when we build something like that, you got to cut corners. You got to use cheap material, cheap stuff, cheap finish. And it is not something that I would feel proud of that I developed this, and it's an MDF stairs with paint over them, and there are developers who do that. They'll put an MDF stairs in the townhouse and just paint it, and I'm not lying. I have a contract from a major developer in my area, And in the specification, it says that the construction price actually includes MDF stairs that are painted, that don't even have laminate on them. So those are the things that I do not want to do. I want to be able to, and I would encourage you to do the same, especially if you want to be in this industry and you want to be known for what you develop. So I would not cut corners, and I would not develop a bad product. And the type of product, how does it meet the facilities, location, amenities, which is the same stuff that we've spoken about. Okay, promotion. These days, marketing budgets have gone through the roof, and I'm not joking. If you see a lifestyle, catalog or something, there you hire a photographer. Hiring a photographer, if you hire a cheap one, it can cost you about $1,000 for half a day to $2,000 a day. If you hire a good one, it could be $4,500 a day. If you hire a really, really good one, it could be $15,000 a day. And all they do is, in the area that you are going to develop your property, they will go around that area, take some mood shots, or they will take some lifestyle shots of the cafe, of the beach, of the train station, of the people having fun. If there's a carnival in the area, they'll take a photo of that. And all those photographs are then combined together into a marketing booklet. And again, the sky is the limit of what you want to spend on something like that. Just give me 1 second, and I'm going to pull out something to show you of what I'm talking about. Actually, there is a really good marketing book that we put together, and I just wanted to show you what the marketing book actually looks like. Now this is not my development, but this was a development that was somebody else did in the same area. And if you look at it, this is all fluff. This is all stuff written by a copywriter, and they've tried to. This is in Fitzroy though, so they've used black and white images and compared it with what used to happen in the past, and now what's happening in that area. And they've used all these kind of graphics. The more money you can spend, something like this, to put something together, and the whole marketing behind this, you're looking at least $50,000 on something like this. And do you see anything in there that's there? It's nothing. All it is it's talking about this place called Whitlam. Their development's called Reflection, and all they're doing is just trying to create a mood of that area, and there's nothing more in there. So if you go and this is the marketing book that we created for our project in Fitzroy. So in here, why is it not okay, it's gonna take a second for it to come alive. So these are the mood shots that I'm talking about. So you hire a photographer, and all they do is take photos of what the character is like over there, what kind of shops are there, what kind of cafes are there. Because this is Fitzroy, everybody has a bike. It's more avant-garde. I don't know if I've even pronounced it correctly. It's the French word. Kind of a collection. So all this is doing is talking about all this. Now we paid $3,650 to this photographer to get us these photos, and that is pretty much it. You get these photos, and apart from the photos, you get a little bit of a write-up of what the architects are, what they do, what they've developed. So they were developing the ones right next to us. So this is one of the renders from that development. This is our development. This is the development that we were doing. So that's basically the render for that. That's the internals. That's the internals again. Now how much do you reckon each of these render is? $3,500. We spent $15,000. Actually, we spent about $20,000 on renders alone, because each product that we were selling was close to $1 million. Each apartment was $1 million. So you had to create that theme, that look, that mood of what it was going to be or what it was going to look like. And then you got floor plans. It shows you a cross section of what the building is going to look like. It shows you the overview. It shows you the floor plans of what they are going to be. And towards the end of it, apart from the floor plans, we will have, if you keep going down, so what they're doing here is they're showing, okay, this is apartment number 16 and 15 and so on, and the kind of finishes we're going to have, which is organized in a template, the kind of appliances that we were going to use. So this is just basically detailing everything so that we can use this book to actually sell the development, and then now you can get it printed and you can do whatever. So if you are doing a really large project, which is where you're going to sell products that are going to be very expensive, you can expect to spend about 1% of your total GRV if you want to do the marketing right. And that's just not the not on photography alone, but also on the entire mood, theme, and everything. If you're doing something small, you don't have to go and basically break your budget. You can go with my first development that I did. We went with an overseas renderer artist impression that they created. I'm just looking for an image if I can find that. Nope. Should be this. No. I haven't got an image that I can show you, but I have used overseas rendering people, and the problem with that is, yes, it is cheaper, and I've paid as little as $300 a render, and I've paid $2,500 and $3,000 a render as well. But I think for what I'm doing now, we pay close to about $1,000 an image, and it's required because that's what it is. So now in your promotional budget, there'll be things like advertising agency, promotional material like brochures, websites, media advertising. You'll have, if you want to go that far and have public relations, media, print. In Frankston, we had a full video that the council put together that we could use on with our marketing, but we didn't end up going there. Real estate agents anywhere between 1% to 6%, as I said, and different websites that you can use to actually do that. But you know that when you go to realestate.com.au, it actually puts it on 3-4 different other websites as well. Project marketing agents are very specialized work, and they already have an established sales channel where maybe they get 2% of what it is, but 4% goes to the financial planner, or 2% goes to another middleman who knows somebody else who will eventually find the client. So it's like a distribution of 2 across 3 different people. So that's why their commission rates are higher, because they have a chain of people who share that commission. So when you sell something for $700,000, it could very well mean that about 40,000 of that actually ended up just in commissions of that one unit. So the bigger the development, the more you need to use this, because it's only then that you'll be able to afford something like that. So you can advertise on internet, on Facebook and Google these days. You can do that. If somebody comes to your website that you created for the development alone, you can put a tracking cookie in there and then follow them with ads and everything. There are all different kinds of things that happen. Local newspaper, targeted newspaper, like you could target Chinese newspapers, Greek newspapers if your demographic is that, or Indian newspapers. A lot of Indian newspaper, I don't particularly read them, but if I ever end up in a grocery store that just specializes in Indian groceries, I do see them, I do flick them, and I see it's full of all kinds of ads about buying property or investing in property and so on. Or Italian newspaper. So you can do that advertising, and I've done that in Chinese newspapers for my Brisbane project. Nothing came off it. I actually didn't find one Chinese buyer who actually bought any one unit. Other sources are, have you heard of this website? I don't even know how to pronounce it. It's just called Juwai. It's just a Chinese website, and they actually list developments from Kuala Lumpur, from around the world, for the Chinese market, and people from China can actually then go there. I spent a lot of money on this site, didn't get a single inquiry. So, but it is there, it is available, and maybe because where I was, the location and everything, I actually didn't need to target a lot of Chinese clientele for that. Billboards, posters, branding website, they're all part of your promotion mix. Different kind of promotional material, brochures, websites, 3D impressions. 3D impressions, you can get them overseas, locally, as we've already discussed. On-site signage has to be good. And the best thing is that you want to actually monitor the progress of your marketing campaign. If you don't monitor your campaign and you don't ask questions to your agent who's representing you, it's not going to cut it, because you have to be on top of the agent all the time. Like every week, ask them, what are the listing reports? And the listing report is nothing but it looks something like this, where you get campaign timeline, how many people came on there, what was the engagement like when in your listing. This would give you a really good idea. It tells you 17 email to agent, 10 phone reveal. So that means, you know how they don't reveal the full, the complete phone number. So if you click on it, it's like a little analytic for them that how many. That means somebody was interested in calling the agent. So 4 click-throughs to agent website, 2 agent details views. All of these. 3,748 photo views, 24 saves to my real estate. So that means people look at this listing and then they say, okay, let's shortlist. So they add it to their listing, and this is going back into 2015. Now this is the kind of render that you get from China or from overseas, or India for that matter. The biggest problem with this is that those people who are overseas have no regard of what the specifications say or what is going to be. So when it actually comes back, they have no idea that it's the council stipulation that the external needs to be brick veneer and it needs to be this color of brick, and they come back with a different color of brick and you don't pay attention, you can get caught under misrepresentation. The same goes for the internal as well. So if they come back with a chandelier in the lounge room, you can't show a chandelier in the lounge room unless you're planning to put one there. So don't be careful of these things, because a chandelier in the lounge room isn't a good thing unless you want to put that in there. So also look at, keep an eye on the market as well, understand the days on the market, understand the vendor discounting that's going on in that area, to understand that. Pre-sales has now become a, it's like a corner store of any development now, because without pre-sales, banks basically do not want to risk anything at all, and they basically make money for jam, because if they lend you money, they've basically covered their backside 110%. So if for whatever reason you go under, they've actually covered it from all angles, and that's what the industry is. Unfortunately, the industry doesn't reward people who reward entrepreneurs. It only rewards people who have a 9-to-5 job, which is actually quite contrary, because all the major successful people in the world have actually taken a lot of risk and have been entrepreneurs to be able to get where they are. But there is no banking system, there is no system that actually helps people like that at all. The bank would want to cover 100%, 110% of their debt in between the equity that's in the block and between the pre-sales, so that the total lend is 100% covered. So those are the things that that you got to now consider, and that is why if you own the land outright, you not only reduce your holding cost, you need less number of pre-sales, and the LVR, although on the paper it says about 70%, but by the time the money that actually comes to you and the money that they hold back, even after approving your loan for X amount, is usually close to 50%. So if you own the land outright, it's actually pretty good. Another marketing tactic that you can use is actually offer a pre-sale price so you can say that this is an off the plan price. Once the project is built, it's actually going to be more. So that is like a carrot that you can dangle, and I've not seen a lot of people do that, and I don't tell anybody because I plan on doing that on my off the plan sales. But I obviously share everything with all my students, and what this does is it actually tells them that there is actually an incentive to buy now than buy later. Now it's a psychological thing, but all marketing is all about their perception, and most of it is all psychology. So you can run a registration of interest. You can even have a display unit or a display suite. You can hire a container that's actually has got glass and everything. You would have seen it outside a few developments that are larger in size, where the display suites are actually manned. So there is somebody there to attend the clients and everything, or there is someone there at open times where people can come in. Usually it has all the large size renders of the kitchen, of the bathroom. It would have a sample of all the materials. It would have a sample of that they can touch and feel. All those things. Database marketing, a lot of agents have a massive database. I don't particularly give a lot of weight to an agent's database. And the reason for that is, what is the agent's database made of? The agent's database is actually made up of all the people who actually came to their listing and made an inquiry ever. Like in their history, every time they've listed a property, whether they listed a property 10 years ago or another property 20 years ago or whatever, somebody came on the site and left their email address. That's what their database is actually made up of. So their database is not is actually dead database, and agents don't really do much apart from sending what's sold in this area and yes, oh hooray, I sold this property, and how many of you are actually interested in looking at it unless you're actually looking for a property. So I had somebody who was talking to my business partner, and he's an agent, and he was giving him all the agent spiel on how good he is and all that, and he says, oh, I've got a database of 43,000 people. I said, Sam, that's a cold database. 43,000 people are the 43,000 inquiries that he would have had in the last 20 years. And in that period, if someone's looking for a property, let's say if you're looking for a property and you want to buy a house, what is your time period? What's your timeline by the time you've actually got a property? Maybe 6 months. If you're serious about getting a property, maximum 6 months. You would have found something within 6 months, and you would have bought it, or you would have made an offer, or you were planning on settling on something, or you would have already started looking elsewhere. So usually it is good, but the thing is, out of the 43,000 database, there's maybe about 5% of it that is about current. Those are the new email addresses that they've accumulated in the last 3 months. And those are the hot leads, and those are the hot stuff. So the rest of the 43,000 databases isn't actually worth anything, because those people would have already bought a property, and it's property. It's not candy that you buy every day. People buy a property and then they sit back for a few years until they can buy another one. So people saying I've got a 43,000 contact database, it's actually just hogwash. But accountants would have a good database, because accountants usually know the people who are looking for negative gearing, or the people who are doing better. So having a chat with accountants and financial planners is a good idea. Financial planners are the snobs of this industry. So if you go to a financial planner, and I've been to a few financial planners, and they talk like they are the gods of this industry. So sorry, I can't deal with you, or I won't give you an appointment, because we already have a certain number of people who we deal with, and we already have our sales channels. So they don't even want to talk to you. So I said, it's fine, but you have to be able to go to a financial planner, and then the financial planner actually promoting your stuff. You gotta reach a certain level, and once you reach a certain level, so that you have a constant pipeline of stock that's coming on the market, that's the time that you can go and make a deal with the financial planner. And not all financial planners are good. Some are really bad. Some are good. So you have to pick and choose which one is going to work, which one is not going to work. Again, project marketers will also have their own database as well that they can market to. As a developer and builder, you are allowed to sell your developed, built properties that you built yourself. You do not have to, if you are the developer, you are doing your developments, you can sell your own stock. You don't need an agent. So if you think your project is too tight, and you want to save the $10,000-$15,000 commission that you're going to pay on each unit that you've developed, on a 4 townhouse development, that's $60,000 at $15,000 commission on each one of them. If you want to save that $60,000 and you are good at talking to people, roll up your sleeves and spend some money with realestate.com.au. And realestate.com.au has developer subscriptions. This is their brochure. I got it off them in 2014. I still haven't used them as yet, but now I'm very close to using them, in the sense that I'm very close to taking this leap and handling this ourselves, because with every development, the amount of commission that's going out of the door for us is over 100K now, because we do 12 townhouse developments, 8 townhouse developments, and if I look at the total money that just went out the door that we could have saved, it's over 80 grand, over 100 grand in many cases, and I do not want to just give that money away. So we are planning 2018, one of my goals, or KPI so to speak, that I give myself, is to set up sales channels and this full sales pipeline. But if you were to go to realestate.com.au yourself, I can show you their rates, which is in this file. So this is for Fitzroy. We spoke about they're developing this last year ourselves, but the PDF that they sent me was from 2014. I don't know why, but this is regarding project profile signature, which was, if you sign up with them for 3 months, that means you control the listing yourself, and it's a premium listing. You will see you'll have to pay $7,000 a month. So that's $21,000 as compared to $61,000. But at the same time, you should be skilled enough to handle the lead when it comes in. You should be skilled enough to answer their queries. You should be skilled enough to present yourself as credible to be able to get them to sign a contract. Now, it seems easy, but it's not. So you need to have your house in order to be able to do that. But this is a lot of medium-sized developers now do not hire agents at all, because they control their listing themselves. They list it, they pay. If you pay, if let's say I've got 7 projects coming up, stock coming up, I'd rather get this listing and not worry about getting an agent. So those are the things that you have to be careful of. Get your own listing. If you only get like a property listing, it's only $16.25 a month, plus $90 as a one-time setup fee. If you get a feature property listing, you can upgrade it to $251 a month. If you get a brochure done, what they can do is they can deliver this straight to eager buyers. So what is that? That is basically all the 43,000 database that this agent was talking about. where is it coming from? It's actually coming from the form that people submit on realestate.com.au, and realestate.com.au actually has a monopoly on listing, and they are very hard to go up against with, because they've gone so big now. They actually own so much data. It's not a joke anymore. In fact, there's another company that owns Real Estate Australia, or Real Estate Australia even went to India and bought the parent company. I think this is the parent company of Real Estate Australia, went to India and bought the two major property listing websites. So they are that big. That's the kind of money that they have, and they obviously recognize that there's a massive market in India, and I know this because it came out in a newspaper, in one of the very few newspapers that I have an app for, just to keep an eye on what's going on back home. And I read that in there that they've actually gone and bought the two major players in the Indian market, and they control all the listing market there as well. So these people, if you wanted to send that email to 43,000 database, they charge 70 cent ex GST per email. So it's like, call it 80 cents, and they will send it out to, I don't know, it could be a massive database. It'll include a photo, it'll include the details, and this goes out to all different kind of people. So you can do that. There is no law against you not being able to sell your property yourself. Now, off the plan contract, I'll look at that in the next section when we get there. Another thing that you can include with your investment is, especially for the investor product, where you're selling something that is an investor product. There's a website, there's a software called PIA. It's called Property Investment Analysis. So actually I'll just put our PIA. Here, this is one, and the other one is called Posh. Oops. Here. So these two softwares are actually built to manage portfolios, and a lot of people have them. I'm not sure how it works. I would never buy them because I use my own spreadsheets to be able to analyze a property. But what this software actually does is it actually shows you, you can download the trials here. They're not very expensive, and if you have a Mac, you can put Crossover or other softwares that actually let you run Windows. So that's the reason I would never get it, because I never use Windows at all. You can go there and you can download this and see what it looks like. But this is more for people who got 50 properties, 10 properties, 20 properties. And what it constantly does is it's all based on what you actually put in the software. So a lot of investor product, what they do is they put in the details of the property that they are selling into these softwares, and they put assumptions that if you're on an $80,000 salary package, or if you're on a $120,000 salary package, what does it look like for you? What's the capital growth rate predicted for that property that they are selling over the next 10 years? And how much equity would it look like? And how much negative gearing you could do, or how much tax you could save? So they put that kind of an analysis into this to be able to present it to the investor to see that. And most people don't really look at it, but these are the hardcore investors who run their investment strategy as a business, and there are very few in the market. But a normal, you can create something like this there's actually, if you look at SFC5 at the back, there's actually there's a little graph, and there's also a rental appraisal, like a rent escalation and the capital growth rate kind of thing that you can create yourself to be able to include with your marketing details. So you could have a project report there, yield, you could add a depreciation schedule, You could have a rental appraisal, capital growth trend, after tax cash flows. So these are the things that that software actually calculates. And this isn't a rocket science. You can do that. There's quite a bit of it: capital growth trend and rental appraisal, and even the yield. These three things and the project report are actually already included in your in the smart feasibility calculator. And you could put in basic formulas and it can extrapolate all this data. It just depends upon whether or not you want to do this. So yeah, how do you select an agent? You do a data analysis. You find out you want if you are going to use an agent, you want the best agent to sell your units and you want the worst agent to actually buy from, because the worst agent that you buy from is not gonna fight too hard for the vendor, so you can get a better deal. But you want the best agent who's gonna sell your unit so you can get a better price. So always remember that. And these days there are many websites like Agent Finder and all of that. Even that website that we discussed, which is the free source of all the information. Where is that gone? Oops. Yeah, even this website. So if you type a suburb here, Aspendale for example, and search for it, it gives you suburb profile. I think if you go into suburb profile, is that in suburb profile? Sold price, garden, here, top 5 real estate agents. So this gives you an idea of who are the top 5 agents in that area. So Biggin and Scott is very good in Aspendale, Hawkins Stewart really good in Mentone, Barry Plan, Buxton, Ray White, and so on. So find out, and you will see that the people who actually sell the most in that area will have a higher percentage of commission there as well. So you'll have to do some research before you actually select an agent to sell your stock. Okay. Marketing and agent preparation. So before you go to an agent, you want to list everything in there. These are the questions that your agent's actually going to ask you. They're going to ask you what the development name is. If you haven't named your development, you don't have to. You can just use the address as it is. But this is very common in Queensland because if you name your development, if you put a name on it, that name actually goes on the plan of subdivision as well. So in Victoria it's not a big deal, but in Queensland it is because your land surveyor and will actually or your certifier will actually ask you for these details to make sure that the name is then they have some sort of a register where this name has to be registered as a development there. So they will ask you for developer's contact details, which is yours. If you have an website to market the project, they will want those details. They will want the name of the architect or the draftsman. If you use the draftsperson, don't bother giving them any name. They will ask for details about owner's corporation estimate. If there is an owner's corporation involved, they will ask for the budget, the sinking funds, the insurance. This is basically to determine what it's actually going to cost people to actually own a property in your complex. If you've appointed a builder, they would want to know who the builder is and whether or not the builder has credibility. If you have a credible builder, then you can actually ride on his shoulder and advertise it, developed by XYZ developers and will be built by, if the builder's got a better name or is well known in the area, you can advertise their name. This gives people a lot of confidence that the product that they're going to get is going to be a good quality product. Expected construction commencement and completion date. This is a very important question, and every agent will ask you because these are the questions that that all the people who actually come to buy off the plan will ask the agent as well. So if put yourself in their shoes, and if you went to an agent and you wanted to buy a townhouse, you want to know when it's going to finish. So if you had prepared the answers to all of these questions even before you go and see the agent, it tells the agent that you know your stuff, you know what you're talking about, and you give these details to them. You can give them a project schedule. You could say, look, we're getting our pre-sales, irrespective of what the sunset clause is. The sunset clause is usually that once they sign the offer plan contract, you've got a minimum of 36 months. I usually put 36 months. People put 60 months as well. That you've got 36 months to actually build and deliver the project. In that scenario, even then you would say that, look, in the next 4 months we plan on starting construction. Construction is going to take about 8 months, and after 8 months add another month or so, and you could say, look, it's ready to move. It should be ready to move in approximately October next year, or whenever you think it is actually going to be. So those are the things that you would need ready. Contract terms, deposit percentage. You can take 5% or 10%. However, always remember that if you are pressed on getting a pre-sale, banks want a 10% deposit. So if you accept a 5% deposit, the bank will not accept that deposit as a deposit, or they will not count that sale as a pre-sale. So do not accept 5% deposit. Always put your foot down for 10% deposit. A lot of people come back to you as saying, "Oh, would you expect a what was it called? It's a bank guarantee." Bank guarantee is fine, no problem at all. But they also come back with there's like a deposit note or some sort of a promissory note or something like that. And this is the first time I'd actually heard of it. And I said, look, I can't do that, because the terms, these are the things that will go in your contract terms, your off the plan contract. They will say that you will only accept a 10% deposit cash, or you will accept a 10% deposit bank guarantee kind of thing. So in either case, the interest that you will make on this will never come to you. This 10% deposit always goes into your lawyer's trust account or your agent's trust account. Your contract of sale will say that. And I'm not joking. Your lawyer would want them to put that money in the lawyer's trust account, and your agent would want them to put that money in the agent's trust account. And I don't know why, because whatever interest comes from that is actually goes back to the buyer. It doesn't come to you. So that's there. And if the buyer is let's say XYZ person comes in and gives me a 10% deposit, and what the lawyer is going to ask you is, when do you have the settlement? So if the settlement is 12 months away, what the lawyer would do is actually put that money into a fixed deposit for 3 months so that it earns a higher interest. And then when it comes back, the lawyer is going to ask you again, oh, can I put that money back into the fixed deposit for another 3 months? And if your settlement is nowhere close, you could say, yeah, you can put it in for 6 months. So their deposit would again go back into a fixed deposit to earn a better interest rate. And that money then actually gets distributed, that gets deducted from their settlement amount, because that money is already available to them. Sunset clause is essentially, a sunset clause notes that if the project is not completed by a certain time, then the contract is void. The buyer's deposit will be refunded, and they are free to look elsewhere. So usually that's why the banks want to see a minimum of 36-month sunset clause. So depending upon the development. So if you are building a high-rise apartment building, the banks may force you to have a 60-month sunset clause. That means if you've got a pre-sale for 60 months, that pre-sale can't get out of the contract. They've have to settle as soon as you've got a title. They usually get 14 days to settle as soon as you've got a title. Stamp duty payable, Victorian stamp duty savings, this is no longer valid, so we can get rid of this. And the use of margin scheme. So if you're in Victoria and you can apply a margin scheme to it, that contract must mention that the margin scheme will apply to this. Fixtures and fittings, you've got to give a detail of all the specifications that are going to be in there. So whether your kitchen and bathroom vanity details, whether it's going to be stone bench top, you got to give details of joinery, like island bench, what it's going to be. You got to give details of cooktops, whether it's going to be gas or electric. Range hood dishwasher, what kind of brand is that going to be? European or stainless steel appliances, or Bosch or Miele or Smeg appliances. If you're going high end, is there going to be an inverter there? Hot water unit type, is it going to be solar hot water? Is it going to be gas hot water? So all these details and specifications have to be put together. I can actually show you, and maybe I'll add it to the things that you can download in this, and you should be able to use that as a template. Just looking for an example for it. We use a very generic one, and the reason is that we do not want to get caught into committing something and not being able to then put it together, because that you then have to either reimburse them some money, or you then have to, if you change something in that. So that is why we actually try and keep all these things a little bit generic in this. I can give you an example here. This is the color schedule that will go in your contract, that will tell you what the external is actually going to look like. It'll also show you an inclusion list, so you can see that this is your inclusion list, and you can put in the details that exterior roofing, color bond walls, ground floor, split face blocks as per architectural drawings, first floor JH cladding painted as per architectural drawings, garage automatic door with 2 remote handsets, interior wall ceiling 3-coat paint system, doors, entry door solid core door from builder standard range, painted ready coat flush panel doors, door furniture, the type of door furniture that you're going to use, joinery fully lined melamine interior, a combination of 2-pack and light timber, grain finish kitchen and vanities, bench tops, glass splashback in the kitchen, the kind of appliances. We usually put imported European brand, unless we are actually putting in Bosch or Miele. That gives us a better perception. That gives a better perception. Hot water system, instantaneous gas water hot water system, inverter reverse cycle system, electrical TV points, phone and data points, switches as per electrical diagram, and these diagrams would actually be included in there. Floors, sealed oak timber flooring, wet areas except for wet areas, and stairs are going to be stained timber stairs. So this is what you're gonna details. I can actually add this to the sheet, so that when you guys download it from under the video, you'll be able to see this and use this as a template and create your own template as you go forward. So those are the details that you got to cover and explain to the agent that this is what we're gonna need. Other things, if you've got a bicycle storage facilities, any kind of storage facilities, you got to mention what size it is, any kind of construction material, floors and party wall construction, window glazing, laminate or double glazing, ceiling height, minimum and maximum. You'll see in a lot of, if you look at the listings for brand new townhouses and apartments, and if the ceiling height is really good, they will actually write it there. And they'll say, you know, on the ground floor is 3-meter high ceiling, and on the top floor is, or on the first floor is 2.7 meters, which is a standard everywhere, but it could be 2.7 and 2.4 as well. So depending upon if it's a higher ceiling, if it's 3 meters and 3 meters, that means you've been able to really build that townhouse would actually have a very grand look when somebody walks in, because it'll have higher ceilings. You got to put in details about the balcony. Is it going to be tiling, PowerPoints? Is it going to be glass balustrading? All that. Kitchen, bathroom, venting. bathroom and kitchen details on soft copy. We actually put these details there. Any kind of green initiatives, like are you going to install solar panels? Is there going to be an acoustic report or an ESD report? Estimated rental appraisal, again depreciation schedule, full set of plans showing room sizes on soft copy, so that this soft copy means basically you can provide these details to the agent as a soft copy as well. Developer and builders previous completed projects, so if you've got credibility, use that. If you haven't done that before, you can use all the projects that the builder that you hired has completed before. Contract of sale or should have a disclosure statement or section 32 or a vendor statement. These three things. It's the term used in, I think, Queensland and New South Wales is disclosure statement, and the term used here in Victoria is section 32 or a vendor statement. Is very common. So let's look at what you need to put together in your off the plan contract. This is always going to be there. First thing is, your land surveyor should have a preliminary plan of subdivision. So what a plan of subdivision does, it actually shows people what my boundary is going to be, how big is the footprint of the property going to be, what size, so basically everything that will go on the title. So if they are buying something, a title comes to them, that marks their territory. So if they have an allocated parking in the basement, it'll show up in the preliminary plan of subdivision that unit number 7 has allocated parking for 2 car parks in the basement. If it has a bike rack allocated to it, that will also show up there. So those details have to be marked there. So without that, you won't be able to put together an off the plan contract. Owners Corporation proposal. This is a free thing. All you have to do is call up an owners corporation, tell them this is what we are doing, and they will put everything together in exchange for you give them the management rights after the development is complete. If you've got more than 20 units that you are developing, you can negotiate with the owners corporation and say, look, I'll sell you the rights for $100,000 if you give me the owners corporation. And you'll see that owner corporation, people who run this kind of business, will actually fight to be able to get that. If you know of Harry Triguboff became the richest man in Australia for a brief period when he actually beat Gina Reinhardt, and when there was a slump in the mining. So he's worth over 10 billion or something like that, and he's a developer. So he used to own his own owners corporation company. So any high-rise development that he did, his company that ran the owners corporation kept all the rights, and because owner corporation is a lot of cash flow but it's a lot of headache as well. But now they've actually come up with a rule where a developer can't have their own owners corporation managing the development that they are completing. So Harry Triguboff, being smart, sold off his owners corporation business recently. Architectural drawings, it needs to have floor plans and elevations, and they need to be endorsed. So I'll just put that as endorsed. The reason it is they need to be endorsed is that, see, when you apply for a DA, all the plans go to the council. Council says, yes, I'll give you the permit for this, I'll approve your development application, but these are my conditions. So whatever those conditions are, if they require you to rejig the drawings, you need to reflect their conditions onto the drawings and then submit those drawings back to the council, and then council stamps them that yes, that they have now reflected all the conditions on these plans. Now your off the plan contract must have these endorsed drawings in them. They should have a stamp from the council, and I'll tell you the reason why. Now you can do that. You can put drawings in your off the plan contract that are not yet endorsed. There's no rule from stopping it. However, if something changes in the end product and someone has already signed the off the plan contract, they look at the contract and say, the kitchen should have been 20 square meters, but the one that they have built is actually 20 or 15 square meters. For whatever reason, you had to change something or something wasn't working and you changed something, they now have an out, and they can null the contract and get out of it. And once your development is built, you don't want any of your pre-sales falling over. So you must make sure that it's endorsed drawings, because if once the drawings are endorsed, that's exactly what you're building. You can't change any of those endorsed drawings unless you go in for an amendment. And even the amendments usually are minor amendments where you say, look, instead of this, I'll do that. And because your preliminary plan of subdivision is actually going to reflect what you've actually put in those drawings, whether they're endorsed or not. But you can't settle without this land surveyor or the certifier coming back again and sealing those plans. It's called plan sealing in Brisbane, and over here is basically compliance from the council. So what happens is, first, everything, the land surveyor draws the plan of subdivision based on the drawings that you provide them that have been approved by the council. But then when everything is built, the land surveyor or the certifier comes back to the building and says, look, now everything is done, I can measure everything for what it is. And then they will redraw everything. So if there is a discrepancy in here because you didn't put the endorsed drawing and then something changed, then that change will reflect in your plan of subdivision as well. And if this is a major change, they will have an out, and they can just say, look, sorry, I signed up for a 20 square meter kitchen. The size of the new kitchen is only 15, so I'm out. And at that time, you don't want to be left with the can in your hand thinking, what am I going to do now? Because I have to sell this now, and all my time has gone, and it's time for them to settle. Because once they sign the contract, while it's actually being built, nobody looks at their contract every day. You know what I mean? They will also look at it towards the end of it. Now, if they are struggling at that time and they are looking to get an out from this contract, they will find that and use that as an excuse to get out of it. And what you want to do is make sure that you complete everything as per what you promise you're going to deliver them, so that if they want to get out, they lose their deposit, which basically means that you can discount your listing by that much to get rid of it ASAP, or still sell it at the same price and make extra whatever the deposit was. So list of inclusions, fittings, fixture also have to be the same. So now these things, if you are proposing any options for the purchaser to elect colors or fixtures or fittings, this should be mentioned there. A lot of people would do that who buy off the plan, but they do it for minor things. Like somebody would come and say, look, can you put an extra PowerPoint on this section? Or look, I already have a fridge which is that size, and can you make sure that the joinery would fit my size of the fridge? Especially if they are buying off the plan. And we accommodate these things. We have these things all the time. Someone would say, look, instead of this color carpet, can I please pick that color carpet? And those things you'll have to accommodate, but that'll be a variation. You then have to ask your builder what he's going to charge for the variation. He comes back with whatever that is, and you being a good developer, you pass the exact same invoice out, or you could add couple of $100 for yourself or another $400-500 for yourself, but you have to be careful what they've asked for, because they would know what it actually costs. So it's not something that comes back for $500 variation and you say, look, it's going to cost you $1,500 to change this. They would know that they are dealing with somebody who's not fair income. So you don't want that. So we never charge, we never put anything on any of this. However, when we arrange something, we put an admin fee on it. Because it takes our time to actually go and find another quote or find another color of carpet and tell them. So whatever that paperwork admin fees is, we do slap that on to the variation, but it's never like, a $500 thing we will put in a variation for $1,500. So that's not, that's bad karma basically. So planning permit include demolition permit. So if you've got planning permit, you need to put that in there. Building permit approvals, if you've got them, these two things are not mandatory. You can put them if you want to put them. Proposed sunset clause for the development advertising brochure. That is why I'm saying that you have to be careful, because your advertising brochure would show colors. So if you go to an overseas artist impression company that puts the 3D renders together, and they don't pay attention to it, and you miss that detail, that'll go in your contract, and then they'll say, look, oh, they showed a chandelier in the lounge room, where is the chandelier? So be very careful with all of that. And also the shape of the lights that they show in their renders. So if they show a lamp or anything that's not required, and or it's not actually going to be there, you're allowed to hang a painting, you're allowed to hang a TV and all of that, and it's understood that it's not going to be there. But if it is a fixture that's supposed to be part of it, like the lighting setup or the door handle or whatever, and that changes, they might say that, look, you showed me, I bought this because of the chandelier. Where's the chandelier? So be careful with that. Important details: name and current address or director, secretary of the vendor company, ABN, registered office, name of development or building, Isaac Place, whatever. Details of the solicitor, where and who is appointed to receive information to and from the solicitor. So usually it is your solicitor who does that. If you're selling inclusive of GST or exclusive of GST, noting that new buildings now attract GST, whether you will elect to calculate on the margin scheme or not, it doesn't matter. It's always usually, if you sell it for 600, that's 600. It's understood that it's including GST. It's not one of those things where they show a lower price. Oh, I charge $300 an hour, and then when you see the bill, it's 300 plus GST an hour. So, which is a cheeky way of doing it. Again, deposit details will go into your off-the-plan contract. In case of more than one director, it is recommended that a corporate power of attorney to be prepared to enable one directory or secretary to execute documentation. So let's say 4 of you are doing the thing together. You should have a power of attorney so that any one person can sign, or some arrangement with the solicitor so that when the contract comes back to you, which is already signed by the purchaser, any one of you can actually sign, or you've nominated one person to sign that contract that yes, it is agreed, that it's now a sale, because the date of sale is the date when you sign the contract, which is the vendor. Usually it'll be the purchaser who will sign the contract first. It'll then come to you, and when you sign it on that date, that is considered the date of sale. Things to plan ahead and consider: if you are to market the property with the stamp duty saving, which is no longer as of 1st of July this year, it's not required. Your special conditions will need to stipulate if you wish to invest the deposit on behalf of the purchaser. These are the things that I've already discussed. Whether you'll be accepting a bank guarantee, all of that. In Victoria, you also need to provide throughout the transaction the council form 8 as to street allocation and identification of each lot. So this is basically, you will get these new addresses issued by the council, and they happen everywhere, not just in Victoria. You will get a letter from the council saying that if you put 12 units on it, these 12 units are now 1/230 Station Street and 2/. Now, which one gets number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is different. Sometimes if it's part of a street and then you've got an entrance for one of the units from another street, that unit could get a different number on a different street, and the other ones could get unit 1 and 2 on XYZ street. If you know what I mean, it's the council will allocate those numbers. Those numbers then have to become part of the title, because that's how the title is going to be given. If you require purchase, reimburse you with the connection fees. Now, most developers don't do that, but what happens is this: when you are finishing a development, you need to connect power, gas, and water to the building. You need to connect that in your own name. Now, you can stipulate that in your contract of sale, that whether you will charge this to the buyer as an extra or whether you are going to foot that bill. Now, I never charge this to any of my buyers extra, because when they want to buy my property at $900,000, that's all they want to pay. If I say, oh, you'll pay $900,000 and then $700 to get the gas and electricity connected, it's going to be a deterrent for them to be able to get it. So I don't, and I would recommend that you don't either. But then you have to account for that in your feasibility. But if you can pass on that cost to them, but you need to mention that whether or not you are going to in your contract of sale. And what will happen is that all the unit electricity bills, everything will go into the developer's name, And as each unit is being settled, there will be a pro rata calculation, and they need to then switch that to their provider from the day they settle. You will have titles, office, lodging fees, and any mortgages, consent, and production fees when the plan is certified by council and ready to be lodged at the titles office. So sometimes the banks would charge a fee for them to consent on you getting the titles, and you need to know what those fees are. My banks have not charged me, except for one shark lender, where even if we actually repaid the money to them, they charged us an admin fee for $5,500 because we repaid them $100K. So, but these happens with shark lenders. I've dealt with Westpac and I've dealt with NAB. They've never charged me a fee like that, but there is a fee that you can be charged just for getting their consent to be able to put the certified plan of subdivision in the titles office. And if there is any land tax payable and you wish it to be adjusted also by the purchaser, so say for example you finish the development in February and you've already got the land tax bill as of December, and you need to pay the land tax for the rest of the year, and you paid that in January, but then your settlement happened in February, all that is then adjusted by your solicitor, and you need to send them the bills. They do the calculation so that you only pay up until the date of the settlement. After that, all the extra money after that then goes to the purchaser. Lawyer's fee, you've got to gather the required documentation, preparing of a master contract of sale, or the disclosure statement, preparation of application of plan of subdivision, attendances in obtaining mortgages, consent, approval, production, each sale transaction affecting final settlement. So they have different tracks, different pricing for all these different sections. They will give you a breakdown. And lawyers, if you go to a lawyer and say, look, I'm going to settle on this land and then I'm going to develop it, and then I want you to do the off the plan contracts and then do the conveyancing for all the off the plan contracts when they settle, they will give you a breakdown of everything. They will give you the legal fees up until land acquisition. They will tell you if there are more input required from me, it's going to be X amount, and I'm going to charge you $800 or $650 for conveyancing when each of them settle. All those things will come into play in your lawyer's fees. So this is all about marketing, and if you have any more questions on marketing, I'd love to take them on. All you have to do is press the hand button, and okay. Yes, Elaine, you're on mic now.
Amber.
Yep.
Just coming back to my question of last time. So now we're setting it off the plan, but primarily we want to get the renders organized, prepared. So at what point does the interior designer needs to work from what documents, and the renders, like the 3D artistic people, graphic designer, what documents, what input documents do they need to work on to produce the output?
The interior designer will finalize your interior specification. So this thing that I showed you earlier.
Based on what document? Is it based on the...
No, it's not based on any document. You show them the architectural plan, right?
Yes.
And you show them you will have a schedule of what went into planning for the exterior anyway.
Yep.
So the town planning, when you launch the documents for town planning, you got to say what the landscape is going to be. You got to say what the external render is going to be. If it's going to be brick face, if it's going to be foam render, if it's going to be weatherboard, you got to mention all of that, and you got to mention the color based on the neighborhood character. So that details will already be there. But when it comes to internal, which is what you're actually going to put in there, you go to a interior designer, and your interior designer will put together a full schedule. They will say, okay, so all the things that I put in here, you can use a interior designer to put it together for you.
Based on your So if you want a medium or high-end finish or low-end finish, is that the sort of discussion with the interior designer?
Correct.
Okay. So they would have a number of, how do you call it, a number of templates to pick from. So if it's a medium spec, for example, they might have a few templates to pick from. Is that right?
They don't have a template. They will suggest you certain things based on your budget. If your budget is not high end or whatever, they will suggest you a generic range, and that cost couldn't may or may not be that much. But they will give you all these details for what you actually can put in the development. I'm just trying to find one example for you as we are talking, so I can show you another one.
Because what I find is, the concern I'm having is, so let's say if it's a beachside area,
Yeah.
obviously the interior designer would understand the market, would understand what sort of fittings and the sort of decor that the interior needs to have, right? And they should sort of recommend what colors, what color scheme, and what sort of floorboards and so forth. Is that the right person to talk to? Yeah?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, because that's where I was trying to understand previously. Not having that sort of experience in terms of if you're building something for yourself, that's different, right? Because you would say, okay, I want to have a white polished floor, or green tiles and so forth. Whereas this one, you're trying to sell it, so you want to know what the market in this particular part of the Bayside area might want, and the interior designer is the best person to recommend that. Yeah.
Yeah, they would, and you would tell them that, look, I don't want it to be of a, I want it to be medium range or lower medium range, and then they will put something together. Now, this is what I got from the interior designer from for my Brisbane project in Windsor. Now, that was I sold my units at 485, 470 on an average, and they were 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartments. And this is the kind of thing that you will get from your interior designer. I paid her about $4,000, and she put all of this together. This thing will then go into your off-the-plan contract, and this will also go to your builder, because your builder will then work off this and look at, okay, this is the thing that I need to. So exterior color scheme, she's mentioned all of that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, she's put all these details. Then she's talked about interior color scheme. So let's say number 2, she's talking about what kind of carpet it's going to be. So she puts something like this together. So this is just the color scheme. And if I'm just looking at something else as well. Where is my off the plan contract?
And now to produce your 3D artistic and the renders, you will need this document from the interior designer.
Yes, for you to be able to do that. So this document will come first, and this is the rest of the things that she gave me. She gave me a specification document. So I'll just zoom in a little bit so you can read what I'm saying. Interior specifications, common area, right? And she's talking about, okay, internal paint walls, low sheen, washable, Dulex, silk board. Yeah, then paint feature, low sheen, washable, refer to plans. So whatever the details are, floor coverings, underlay, no, not applicable, carpet, not applicable, internal floor tile, national tiles, and she's picked up a color for us, and she's picked up the size for them, what it's going to be. Then you go down further. She put together all these documents for us, so we could have and
time frame. How long does it take to produce that sort of document, roughly?
Sorry?
How long does it take for them to produce that sort of document?
If it's a normal standard range, they might do it really, really quick. Otherwise, it could take 2 to 3 weeks for them to put it together. So something like this, this is the disclosure statement, and I'm just going down. So this is the preliminary plan of subdivision. It's actually not the plan of subdivision. When you're doing apartments, it's called the building format plan. So they are talking about what the common lots are, what the size is going to be, what the elevations are going to be. And as we keep going in this, this is an actual development plans and everything. Now specification. So this is that specification document that I was just showing you. This is just a scan copy. and then she goes section by section to talk about that, okay, in this selection there's going to be a towel rail, and this is the kind of towel rail it's going to be. It's going to be a double towel rail. Finish is going to be chrome. Carpet is going to be carpet call, sandy point, whatever that carpet is, solution, whatever details that they are putting in with it. Again,
Okay.
she's talking about wall skirting tile, national tiles again, gloss white, 200 by 400, half tile skirting. So she's specifying all these details, what it's actually going to be. So she put in all that work. I just went to her and I said, look, give me this is an investor product, give me like a mid-range kind of thing. And she put this thing together for $4,000 or something. And she went through all the details of exactly the kind of paint we're going to use, the kind of common area floor tiles is going to be, all that. Because then this also then becomes part of the builder's contract.
Right. Okay. So as part of tendering to get a fixed price quote, essentially.
Yes. So you put this as part of the build contract, so that your builder he can't actually get out of this thing, because he signed up on this and he needs to deliver all these details as specified in that document.
Okay. Yep. So the working drawing is not enough to get a builder's contract. So you need that specification document in detail.
Yeah, because see, this specification would have the kind of finishes, the kind of it's called detailing. So those detailing have to be stipulated. You can actually sit with the builder and do it yourself. And your builder will show you, look, this is what I use. If you use this kind of thing, I can give you X. I can do it for X amount. If you do it, if you use that kind of finish, I can do it for this amount. All those things.
Yeah.
So you can put this thing together, sitting with your builder as well.
Yep. Okay, no, that's good. Yep. No, it's much clearer now. No, thanks, Amber.
No worries at all. Thanks, Len. Okay, Ashley, give me 1 second. Okay, Ashley, you're on mic.
Hi, Amber. So when do you officially launch pre-sales? Let's say you get your DA in January.
Yep.
When would you be budgeting for launching pre-sales?
As soon as
let's say you're doing 10 townhouses. You got your DA in January.
Yep.
When would you be budgeting for launch pre-sales, and when would you expect to have that finished to facilitate construction?
See, as soon as you've got your DA, the first thing would be you get your architect to start working on satisfying the DA conditions that came with it, because those plans will then reflect all of that, and they will get lodged back into the council. In the meantime, what I would do is, because I don't have the endorsed drawings at the moment, what else can I have? Can I get the specifications ready? Yes, I can get in touch with an interior designer, get all my specs ready. I can then use those specs and get my renders ready. So I can get all of those things ready. And what else do I need? If there is an owners corporation involved, I can get in touch with the owners corporation and get that going. Once these three things are going and you got these three things back, you can get in touch with your lawyer and get the off the plan contract ready. So if we go back to this list here, what are the things that you need? You can trigger this off, lands aware, if your architect says, okay, the conditions are not that changed. So sometimes the condition would come back that, the front unit needs to be set back a certain amount, and you might find that if you set it back like, I don't know, half a meter or something, you might lose a room. And in that scenario, you can't trigger the lands aware or the certifier instantly. What you need to do is get the architect to revise the drawing so that instead of 3-bedroom first, it's now a 2-bedroom, and then lodge it. And then when you get the endorsed drawings, you can go to the land surveyor and say, look, can you put the plan of subdivision together for this? So they will put that together, because if there are any amendments, they will charge you. Or you can go to a stage where you get the architect to say, look, are you ready for your final submission that needs to go back to the council for endorsement? If the architect says, look, it's all ready, it's all good, everything is fine, this can go straight to the council, and I know that it will get endorsed, there's no issue whatsoever. Don't wait to receive the endorsement, because it's just bureaucracy. It just takes its time. Don't waste that time. Take those drawings and go to your land surveyor and say, look, these are the drawings, draw me a preliminary plan of subdivision. So they will draw the preliminary plan of subdivision, trigger the owners corporation at the same time, trigger the interior designer, get the specification. Once you've got the specification, trigger the all the details for off the plan contract and the renders, because that's all you can do. Unless you've got the endorsed drawings back, your architect can't start working on the working drawings, on the detailed strop drawing that you would need to get the building permit, because they need to be based on what the endorsement comes back with. Now you can trigger that as well, so long as your architect is confident that what he submitted with the council, there's not going to be any changes, and he can start on the working drawings. This is just project management and saving that time, the things that can be triggered.
Okay, sounds a lot of detail. We'll have to get my head around. But just from a feasibility point of view, if you were saying that you're expecting your DA to come through in January,
yeah,
I just want to know when after you've done all these other interim steps, when would you be budgeting? How many months would you be budgeting before you started your pre-sales? And then how long would you budget for pre-sales?
When you say budgeting, what do you actually mean with budgeting?
Well, before you start construction, you need to get the pre-sales to cover the loan. So yep. I'm expecting this will take a certain number of months to complete. And this then goes into your internal rate of return calculations and what have you. So I just want to know, just as a rough idea, what would you be looking at?
Look, we don't really wait to get a construction budget ready before we can start our pre-sales. We trigger that as soon as we've got the endorsed drawings and we've got all the marketing material. We trigger off the plan sales, because I know that this is what I'm going to sell it for. And for you to be able to determine this is what I'm going to sell it for, actually the selling price is always set by the market. It's not set by what the construction is going to end up costing you.
Sure. Yep.
So that.
So once you get your endorsed drawings, you start the pre-sales immediately.
Yeah, and I do even if you've got your endorsed drawings, and if you've got the final submission that your architect has made to the council to get endorsed, don't wait for that. Use those drawings and start contacting builders and say, look, I'm getting my working drawings done, but this is my town planning. This is what it looks like. Give me a ballpark figure. So you'll start getting an idea of where you stand with the construction cost over there. And that is more than enough for you to trigger marketing.
Okay. And in a normal market, not a slow market, but a normal functioning market, for 10 townhouses in a liquid market, say like Melbourne, how long do you expect to get the pre-sales for the 10 townhouses?
For a 10 townhouse, I think you would need about 5 pre-sales so that it covers the construction for it, 5 or 6 maybe. And I'd allow 2-3 months maximum. That's determined from the days on the market in that area. So you look at the days on the market, you talk to the agents and say, look, how soon can this move? And in Queensland, it's actually a good thing because it's very common for different agents to actually list one same property. You could have one development listed by 2 different agents, but in Victoria, agents just fight over that. They want to control the listing.
Okay. And how long, in your experience, for 10 townhouses, if you from the DA period to getting the endorsed drawings, I know that that's dependent on how efficient you are as a developer, but how long do you normally take to get all that done?
We have not taken more than 3 months ever. It has taken sometimes 3 months after the endorsement to start construction. But usually we've done that within the 3-month period.
And then from when pre-sales are completed to getting construction started, I mean, is that pretty efficient then in terms of the bank loan gets done and then the construction can start?
Banks basically looking to cover their debt. So if there is equity, let's say the land is $1 million and you need to put, you need 1.2 million for construction. So the bank is looking to cover their backside for 2.2 mil, correct? And let's say you've got 6 townhouses and you've got each townhouse at 700 or something. So the bank will say, look, give me 3 pre-sales. That covers me for 2.1 million and you already paid the land off. I'm fine with that. Or if you paid the land off already, which is $1 million, the bank might say, give me 2 pre-sales because that gives me 2.4 million. That covers my total exposure of 2.2 million. see, bank is looking to cover what they're lending to you. So if their total lend to you is 1.2, they just want 2 pre-sales so that it covers the 1.2.
Okay, gotcha.
So
Alright.
between
And,
sorry to cut you off. It's basically the equity in the land plus the pre-sale value. You combine them and against the loan that you're going to get and see what it is. You'll be able to determine the number of pre-sales they're going to ask for.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. And you said you discount when you're doing off the plan sales. You discount, is that correct?
I don't discount as
So
such, but sometimes when I want to start construction ASAP, and I did that for the 4 townhouses we did 2 years ago, we had to, because we wanted to start early. So instead of saying discount, we just said stamp duty paid by the developer. And at the time we had this, because this was before 30th of June this year, it had stamp duty savings if people bought off the plan. So that calculation, because if you bought it off the plan, you didn't pay the full 5.5% stamp duty, you only paid a fraction of it. So instead of a stamp duty that was 35 grand or 45 grand, the total stamp duty was only 15 or 17,000. So we put an offer out saying that, it's 900,000 or 950,000 stamp duty paid by the developer, because their calculated stamp duty at the time was 16 grand something. So
Okay.
So we just gave like a $16,000 discount to quickly get a sale so we could start construction. Because in that scenario, we only needed 1 pre-sale to be able to start construction.
And for these pre-sales, the commission, like you talked about, are you using project marketers? Because you're saying like 5 to 6% commission. That's 50% payable up front, I'm guessing, right?
They may or may not ask for that. Usually, I never agree to paying. They come up with something like, if they get you an unconditional signed contract, they want 50% of their commission released to them then, and then 50% comes to them when the settlement happens. But that also means that you got to come up with more cash.
Yes.
You got to have more cash in your pocket to be able to pay them. And we, as developers, in most cases, we are struggling with cash flow because we have to carry the project right till the end to get to the payday. And sorry.
Yeah, the total commission you're paying then on these pre-sales.
Yeah.
Are you typically finding yourself, including your upfront and on settlement, are you typically paying about 5 or 6% commission?
I've only paid that for my Brisbane project.
Only for the Brisbane project, okay.
Yeah.
So normally you're doing a more normal, like 2% or something.
I pay 1.2 to 1.7. That's the range, depending upon which agent that I dealt with. And it's not just one agent. The thing is, we've got to keep different agents happy because we want them to bring off market sites to us, sites that they get hold of but they don't list. You know what I mean? So
okay.
if they found a property that was really, really good and it had potential, so instead, before they actually put it on the listing, they'll pick up the phone and give us a call and say, look, this is what I've got. You've got 2 days. Tell me if you want it, it's yours.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Thank you, Amber.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Ashley. Okay, I was just starting to wonder how come Will's not asking question today. Yes, Will.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Beautiful. Look, I'm just gonna give you. This is in terms of cash flow and funds. Just a quick question. I'm just going to give you an example of an easy example of a development. Let's say we've got a townhouse development. It's only 2 townhouses, so most likely I'm going to be going for a residential loan for the development.
Yep.
Let's say I know my lender. The maximum the lender is going to go up to is 80% LVR. Let's say the townhouse development, the TDC for the townhouse development is 2 million.
Yep.
So the 20% is just 400,000.
Yep.
Now, so I know my lender requires 80% LVR, which is the 400,000 that I have to have. Let's say I have that in cash in my bank account.
You have the 80% in your bank account?
No, not the 80%, the 20%.
The 400K
So
you
the
have
bank,
it, okay.
Yeah. So the bank the bank is able to lend me up to 80% of the TDC. So let's say I've got a deposit of 400,000, which is what the bank requires me to do the project. No, out of these 400,000, I know I have to pay the deposit to the property. Let's say the deposit property is 10% or a middle of the day is 100K. Out of my 400,000, I'm going to be spending 100K. I've got 300,000 remaining. Now, when I come back to the bank, when it's time to get all these finance things finished, I only have 300,000, which is not.
Sorry, I lost you, Will. Hello? Will, I've got no sound from you. Hello? Hello? Can anybody else hear me? Because I can't hear Will. Okay, you can. Thanks, John. Will, somehow I've lost your. Okay, you've gone offline. Oopsie daisy. We'll give him 2 minutes to come back online. Okay. Hang on 1 second. I'm just gonna unmute Will. Hang on. John, you're on mic. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I did have a question for you, Amber. How you doing?
I'm very good.
Good. Just while we're waiting for Will, Amber, you said earlier that, or I understood that if we have the cash to buy land outright, that's always better than going to the bank and not having all that money for the land. I suppose my question is, if you're in a position to purchase the land outright,
Yeah.
is that the most advantageous position as far as the bank is concerned when they look at your proposal?
For bigger developments, yes. For smaller developments, maybe not. The reason is that the same example that Will was referring to, this is like a 2 townhouse development, and the bank will not even worry about getting a QS involved. The bank doesn't care about a commercial loan. Bank's going to give you a residential land 80%. You're better off not using your money. And if you got the serviceability, if you can borrow the money to settle on the land and build from the bank with 80% LVR and your deposit, you're better off using the bank's money, because your return, your return on equity on your cash, the return on cash actually goes up considerably, because you've used the minimum amount of money that you should use from your pocket, and you've leveraged most. So that way your return on equity could be massive in that scenario.
Sure.
In all scenarios,
Understood. So
yeah.
if you were doing, let's say, a 4 townhouse development,
Yep.
in that case, the bank would take you to a construction loan.
Yeah.
Therefore, in that scenario, it would be, you're suggesting it would be best to own your land outright?
Again, it's the same. If you got serviceability, has somebody there got serviceability, or they haven't got serviceability?
Okay, so let's say, for instance, you don't have serviceability. You've got $1 million that you need for the land, and your development is, which you can buy outright, and then your development's going to cost you, or your building's going to cost you, say, 1.2.
Yeah.
For the 4 townhouses.
Yeah, for the build.
Being a construction loan, would the bank, because you do own your land, would the bank then lend you the money on the provision that you have one pre-sale, for example?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, and then you would not have any servicing costs, correct?
Well, not cost, servicing issue.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, sure. You could,
So
because
the bank will then look at it.
capitalized.
Yeah, the bank will then look at it as a commercial transaction. Bank will say, look, they only need 1.2 to build this thing. They already own the land, which is $1 million. And if they get one more pre-sale, I'm more than covered. Between the land and one pre-sale, I'm covered more than 1.2 million. So the bank's going to say, okay, yeah, no problem. Because the bank will do a tripart agreement between you, the builder, and the bank. So if the builder goes belly up halfway through the construction, the bank will step in and allocate somebody else to finish the job, and the whole project would be finished.
Sure. Okay. That's answered my question. Thank you. Now, the bank won't look at it when you, when you approach the bank and say, look, we need 1.2 for the building, but we do own our land, the bank's not likely to say to you, well, you may own your land, but we want you to contribute some to the building as well. Or is that taken up by your pre-sale?
They basically look at, in terms of equity, they look at your total development cost and say, look, I'll give you 70% or 60% and you put 40%. If the 40% of your total development cost, see, TDCs include the value of the land.
Understood, yeah.
So you do a total of that and you see, okay, my TDC is, let's say, 100 and the land was, let's say, 30, right? And in your TDC, you have to come up with 40 and they have to come up with 60. And if the land was 30 that you've already bought, you only have to come up with another 10. And if that 10 you've already used to pay off the consultants, you've got the building permit, you've got everything, that's the 10 that's already covered. So now they can say, look, get a pre-sale and we'll give you the construction loan.
Understood, yeah. Very good. Thanks, Amber. Is Will back?
Yeah, I think he's back. Just give me 1 second. I now have to go to Casey before I can go back to Will. So I'm going to mute you now. Thanks very much, John.
Thanks.
Yes, Casey. Casey.
Yeah, mate. It's just more of a It's just more of a comment. I asked the bank about pre-sales, and they said that they would want all three pre-sale of the 3 townhouse development, and it would have to be unconditional before they would do finance.
The pre-sales have to be on conditional contracts. That's nothing new.
But they said they had to sell them all.
You have to sell them all.
Yeah.
So
and then I asked the real estate agent, and he reckons that they don't do that. Townhouses. He goes, oh, it's more of a apartment thing. And I'm like, really? So I don't.
No. If you own the land, you can get away with 1 or 2 pre-sales so long as the land and the construction borrowing that you're going to do with them is covered. So if you've got 2 pre-sales, I don't know which bank did you go to.
No.
Well, you can go to a second-tier lender and say, look, I've got this covered. They can do that. But if you got all 3 sold, it's not going to take a long time to sell just 3 units. If they are well designed, you've done your marketing, and you have no holding costs because you already own the land, take your time, get the 3 across the line. You might be done with the 3 in 60 days.
Yeah.
And that way you don't have to worry about nothing. You just have to wait for the time to pass so that the construction's finished, everything is taken its place, and then you just collect the cash.
Righto. Yep.
So, but talk to a few banks.
Okay.
And if you get to that point where I'll send you to the guy that does my work in that.
Yep. No worries.
All right.
Cool. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, Casey. Okay, going back to Will again. What happened, Will?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, my computer went off. Sorry about that.
That's all right. Okay, can you start again for the question? You were saying that you had 400K, which was 20% LVR, and 80% LVR was going to come from the bank. But then you said you had another 100K, which is the part that I missed because somewhere you dropped off.
No, so basically, let's say the TDC is 2 mil. Let's say the bank, my lender says, Will, you need 20% of total TDC to get this development going.
Yeah.
All right. So then I have 400K, which is 20% in my bank account.
Yeah.
Once I have that, I need to go and I need to pay my deposit on the land.
Yep.
Let's say my deposit on the land is 100K.
Yeah.
So then I have 300 left.
Yeah.
Let's say I engage some architects and I talk to a builder, etc. And then I spend another 50K in consultants, etc. to get the project fully documented and so on.
Yeah.
So then I've got
250K.
250. Yep. So I've got 250 left. Then I go back to the bank and I say, all right, it's time to get my finance ready. Like, I don't know if you get the finance all set up before you go and do all these things, or if you actually pay your deposit, get everything ready, and then you go to the bank knowing that you will definitely get an approval. When do you go to the bank?
If you're going to acquire the land and sign the contract on the land and go unconditional with it, you've got to be double sure that you can settle on it. not sign the contract, and then 3 months later when the settlement comes up, you're looking for finance. You can't go unconditional on a block of land that you signed the contract for without making sure that you have the money to actually settle on it, or you have the finance secured already.
Okay, so then I go to the bank first, I get an approval for the whole development, and then out of that cash that it's been required for me to have, I go and spend that money first, 10%, let's say, on the deposit, and the remaining on the consultant. So you first go to the bank, and then you go and you pay the deposit to the landowner, and then you settle on the land, yeah?
Have you got your finance approved? You have to get your finance approved.
No, I understand that, Amba. I understand. I'm just trying to see in terms of how you do this. All right, let's say, for instance, I definitely can get the finance approved for the JV that we are trying to do. All right, let's say that's not an issue.
Yeah.
Let's say I go and I get the finance approved first, and they told me, all right, Will, you can definitely do this project. Do I then go and pay the deposit for the land once everything is approved? Or do you pay the deposit for the land before? But that will mean that you actually have less cash for what the bank is requiring.
No, you'll have to pay the deposit. Whatever deposit that you paid. See, the bank will never fund the stamp duty or the GST on the land if it's applicable. So let's say you're buying the land for $1 million plus stamp duty. So you sign the contract for $1 million. The stamp duty is coming out of your pocket.
Yeah.
It's not coming out of, so the bank says, I'll give you 80%. So they're not talking about 80% of 1 million plus the stamp duty. They're talking about 80% of the contract price, which is 1 million. So you better have 200K and the money that you need, 55 grand in Victoria for stamp duty.
Yeah, I understand that.
So if you put 100,000 deposit, that will get adjusted against the stamp duty that you will need to pay at settlement and your 10% and your 20% deposit or 10% deposit that you have paid. So that money will be adjusted. So you don't have to come up with that 100K again. However,
extra. Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah. So that money will get adjusted against the value of the land.
Mm-hmm. All right. So let's say I require 400,000 to get the development going. Then I can go in with this 400,000 once finance is approved and everything. What I will do is, without 400,000, I pay my deposit, let's say 10%, which is 100K, in the property. And let's say I'm doing a 12-month settlement on the property. So then I pay 100K with that out of my own pocket pretty much. And then I get all the consultants involved and everything. And then once I need more money, pretty much once I run out of money, I go to the bank and tell him, all right, can you now pay for the construction, etc. So you're first using your money, the cash that you have that the bank told you to bring forward, and then you go to the bank to tell them to fund the remaining. Once, knowing that all of this is approved. Does that make sense?
Sort of. In a nutshell, Will. Just remember that don't sign a contract unless you are sure that you can settle on it, whether you'll get finance or whether you'll have the money to pay that. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Second, whatever money you pay towards the land in terms of deposit or anything will get adjusted against the value of the land and the stamp duty. Everything will get adjusted at the time of settlement. Whatever the remaining is required for you to put in based on the bank's approved LVR, that money you'll have to come up with. And once you come up with that money, you will be either settling on the land just for that, whatever that money is, or if it's a commercial loan, and in your case, you were talking about a duplex just with 2 townhouses on a block, it is going to be a retail loan. So your serviceability would be a major factor in that. So in that scenario, I would suggest that you buy the land out completely and then get your pre-sale and then go to the bank and say, look, this is what I've got. Are you going to fund it?
Mm-hmm. No, that makes sense. I guess I just want to make sure that if a bank comes to me and says, well, you need 35% to fund this project, and for us to give you the money, that 35% is all I need, knowing that my feasibilities and everything is involved in there. That 35%, like if I have 35% in cash, I will be able to do the project.
Banks will never say that.
Everything has been approved.
Banks will never say that. Banks
Okay.
will never say that if you've got 30% in cash, then you can do the project. Banks will say that we'll look at the project, we'll look at the pre-sales, we'll look at your serviceability if you need to settle on the land, and
Yeah.
if there is a gap between you settling on the land and the construction loan kicking in, they will look at all of that.
Yeah.
And
Let's
on
say-
a retail
let's say-
loan, they will always look at the serviceability, always.
Okay. But let's say this is approved though. Let's say everything is approved and they require me to have 35% in
Yep.
cash to do the project.
Yeah.
So everything is approved.
Yep.
Is that 35% is all I need? Or do you think you need more? That's what I'm trying to find out. If you actually need more than 35% once everything is approved, or should you be allowing for more?
You should have 35% of the TDC or GRV, whatever your bank is using to fund your development. And banks would never pay the GST either. Always remember that whatever your GST is, so if your contract price is 1.1 million and it includes $100,000 GST in it, bank's only going to give you $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
But you will have to pay the builder everything, including GST. But in that scenario, what you do is you have a little bit of extra cash that you can pay the builder, then claim it back the next month, and then use the same cash and keep rotating it until you reach settlement.
Yeah, correct. And you need let's say 60K as well, or whatever it is for the stamp duty as well, apart from your 35%.
Correct.
Okay. All right. No, that's what I wanted to know. One more question, last one.
Yeah.
Let's say I'm doing a 12-month settlement in a property. I've paid my 10% deposit. Everything is going ahead. The bank has approved everything. Everything's all right. During these 12 months, I'm getting everything organized. I'm getting my consultants. I get my architectural and all the different drawings ready. I've engaged the builder. Can you do all these things? Can you do the permit and everything, knowing that the property is not in your name because you haven't settled on the land yet?
You can do all of that.
Okay, good. So I can pretty much get everything ready. So for let's say I buy the land on 2000.
That's what we try and do with 12-month settlements. We try and get everything ready before we have to settle.
And then once you settle, let's say 2 weeks after, you just kick in with construction and you just start building, and you move into the construction loan, and then the interest can get capitalized.
Yep.
And then that's how you do it.
Yep.
All right.
That's how you aim.
Okay.
That's what you aim to do always.
Yeah. That's that's what I will be aiming to do as well.
Yeah.
I guess it's good to know that you can do all these things without having the land in your name or anything. Doesn't the land owner need to sign any papers for you to put the plans on council or anything like that?
You have to put it in your settlement terms and conditions. You should say that you should be allowed to actually apply for town planning, and most they will all consent to it. They usually do for a longer settlement.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. No, that's all for me, Amber. Thank you.
Thanks, Will. I've got one more question from Satish. Just give me 1 second. Yes, Satish, you're on mic.
Hi, Amber. I've got two questions. The first one is, I understand if you're building 2 townhouses, it will fall under the residential/retail loan. How many number of townhouses would it take to tip it to a commercial loan arrangement? Is it 4, 3, 5? How does it work?
Usually 4.
Usually 4. Okay, cool. And the second question was, all along, I know you understand we're trying to team up with 4 to 5 parties, come up with a joint venture agreement.
Yeah.
We were thinking around buying the land outright, and then the concept of using a pre-sale to then fund the build. That was one neat option.
Yeah.
Based on today's session and the conversation you were having, there was another option that pricked my mind, which was, put less from your pocket, which is in the joint venture agreement. You can still buy the land on loan and then perhaps use the joint venture's serviceability to build. That looks like a second option we can perhaps consider. But my question is around, how do I work out on a case-by-case or a deal-by-deal basis which one is a better option, whether to buy it outright and use pre-sale or buy it on loan and use serviceability? How do we work out as a JV team?
It's actually a combination of your serviceability. Anytime you're getting a retail loan and you're just borrowing to settle on the land, your serviceability will come into play, and they will look at everything and say, look, oh, you can't service it. The moment you hear that you can't service it, that means you can't borrow to settle on the land.
Right.
So if the bank says, oh, you want to buy this investment property and 4 of you want to get together and buy this, they'll look at the combined serviceability of 4 of you, and they say, okay, it services, you can borrow it, but then you remember that within 30 days you'll have the first monthly installment. That is your holding cost. So you'll start paying that installment every month, and you should have that money. So let's say your monthly installments is $5,000 and you have to hold it for 8 months. You must have at least $40,000 in your surplus that's going to go into holding this.
Yep, so that would be the holding. And then for the serviceability, the bank will again reassess. Is that what you're saying?
No, at the next thing is construction loan. So when the construction loan kicks in, the bank will say, irrespective of whether or not you got 1 pre-sale or you got 50 pre-sales, bank's going to say, okay, your total TDC is 100. I will give you 60, including the value of the land. You've already taken 80 on the land, so I can only give you X amount. The rest has to come from your pocket. So then you have to team up and come up with the remaining amount of money, so the bank can actually lend you all that.
Okay. Yeah, I've made a note of this. I just need to work out. Maybe I'll come back to you again because, yeah, I'll do that.
No problem at all.
Thanks, Emma.
All right. Looks like marketing was a good session because this is the longest we've gone so far. Okay. Any other questions anybody would like to ask today, or we will end the session today? All right, no more hands going up. Thank you so much. Casey, your hand is still up. Is it a new question or is it an old question? Or if it's an old question, can you press? Okay, it's gone off. Okay, it's gone back on again. Okay, hang on 1 second. Yes, Casey.
No, that's all right. That's all right.
That's all right. No worries at all. Casey, I'll be in touch with you shortly. Most probably tomorrow. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for tonight, and I'll see you guys next week.